Roof is one of my absolute favorite masterpiece musicals of all time. I love it not only because of its incredible musical score and content, but also because of how true and concisely directed the movie version was. In this essay, we're going to analyze one scene in particular that not only does the musical justice, but actually articulates it even better. This is when the movie actually does it better. Traditionally speaking, the beginning of the second act begins after the pogrom at Saitel's wedding. However, I'm going to claim, from a story structure perspective, the second act, out of 3 as I would divide it, is actually rooted from and begins with the song To Life. The significance of this song is mostly tied actually to its subliminal messaging and musical/stage crafting rather than the actual lyrics of the song. The scene leading up to the song already gives us all the information we need to understand the significance of what's going to happen in the song, and also in macro what will happen later in the second act. We meet Laser Wolf, who is nervous and asks for the innkeeper's finest brandy. This shows us not only that he is clearly a financially comfortable man, but also how much he cares about this topic, and that he's genuine in his desire for Zeitel. We meet the Russians, who walk into the bar and are offered vodka or schnapps. Their choosing the vodka subconsciously indicates to us their otherness and that they separate themselves from the Jews of the village. Finally, we see Tevye go through his typical fourth-wall-breaking monologue, where he discusses his thoughts with the audience. We see him genuinely go through all of these thoughts that we as the audience go through too. His conclusion makes sense from a logical, parental standpoint and actually allows for us as the audience to join him in his celebration, despite the icky feeling of this old man marrying his daughter, and despite us inherently rooting for Zeitel and Motel. The song itself has 2 elements we'll analyze most critically: the music and the choreography. In the music, we have 3 main motifs: the To Life motif,
To life, l'chaim, 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 to life.
the joyous motif,
We raise a glass and sip a drop of schnapps in honor of the great good luck that favored you.
and the Russian motif.
Wasza zdrowia, heaven bless you both, zdrowia.
The first 2 melodies have the same familiar Jewish sound to what we've been acquainted with throughout the show thus far. We can recognize it as Jewish not only because of the blue notes and Friggish inclinations that the melody presents, but also because of the instruments chosen to be used. The leading instruments are woodwinds, most prominently being clarinet, which is deeply associated with the klezmer Jewish sound. The rhythmic emphasis is also a classic Jewish-styled oompa oompa, sitting on the 1 and the 3 of the bar.
1, 3, 1, 3.
Choreography-wise, we're almost exclusively focused on the Jews celebrating in the bar. They're drunkenly flailing their arms around in the If I Were a Rich Man style. They're messy and unorganized, yet full of glee and kinship. Interrupted by the Russians, the music breaks and changes. The Russians, standing on the tables, literally looking down at the Jews celebrating, play their own tune. And suddenly, the music sounds foreign to the show. A new instrument, a mandolin, is leading the melodies. The rhythmic emphasis changes too and is now on the 2 and 4. This is our third motif, a Russian melody which, by the way, has almost no accidentals, meaning they're singing on key. They're joyful and harmless, but clearly in control. As soon as they take to the floor, the Jews back away. Their dance is sharp and poised. They dance as one unit, almost like soldiers, as though this space is their right. In the original libretto, this is it. The Jews dance, the Russians dance, and the song ends with To Life. This is where the film changed not only its own version, but almost all future productions of the play, and where it gets really interesting. Just as they start loosening up and the music begins playing the To Life motif, a Russian dancer bumps into Tevye. There's a moment of tension. Clearly, they don't trust each other. Reaching his hand out, the Russian invites Tevye to dance with him, and he does, cautiously. The music is playing a variation of the Russian motif as Tevye learns the Russian dance. This alone is significant because it is the symbol of Tevye's liberalism, with Tevye also being a friend of the constable. And it shows us later the cost of that liberalism when Chava falls in love with a Russian. The hand gesture is also a symbol of Tevye's assimilation through his kinship with the Russians. It's the same hand gesture he uses later to get his wife to dance with him at his daughter's wedding after Perchik crosses the divide to dance with Huddle. But it doesn't stop there. As Tevye is gaining confidence in dancing with the Russians approach the other Jews, who decline the invite. Instead, they try to pull Tevye back, and a battle over the space commences. The Russians take over, then the Jews take over, back and forth, back and forth. Little by little, the Russian melody slurs and begins to sound Jewish-leaning. The rhythm becomes vague and unsure until, almost unnoticeably, the music goes back to a variation on the to life and joyous motifs. The Jews confidently dance in the room, no longer fearing the Russians, yet being sure that they are not integrating with them. Meanwhile, the Russians are literally weaving their way between the Jews, symbolically implanting themselves in the Jews' paths. The rhythms of the music are still vague and can actually go either way depending on your natural inclination of 1 and 3 or 2 and 4, symbolizing the merging of these distinct cultures.
2, 4, 2, 4, 1, 3, 1, 3.
The song ends with a Russian circle and a Jewish circle all dancing around Tevye as he proclaims to life. John Williams and Tom Abbott, the musical arranger and choreographer adapters for the film, both worked closely with Jerome Robbins and Sheldon Harnick and knew exactly what they were doing. They were laying out the gravel upon which the second act was to be built. The Russian-Jewish conflict, the Chava tradition conflict, the modern changes tradition conflict, the pogroms, these all take root in this scene and song. We may have understood that there was a conflict before, but now we're seeing the context behind it. And all that using exclusively visual interpretations and clever musical arrangement. Truly a masterpiece.